Welcome, everyone. What a day it was yesterday. We had Krisztina Georgieva, David Cameron, Jessica Alba, and so many other social entrepreneurs, inspiring speakers, change makers. I hope that you are as excited about this new day as I am. And if you still wanted to watch some of the content from yesterday or the day before, you can go back to the sessions and watch the videos on demand. I've also posted the link for the YouTube video for Kristina's intervention, so have a look. Also, based on the conversations during the past 2 days, we have worked on a leader's declaration. This declaration, this letter is setting out our collective goals for a just and impact-led recovery. We're really asking you to join us and to support this. So even though this declaration is still under embargo, so please keep it for yourself, but we really ask you to consider signing it. We really would welcome your signatures and your support for this. Again, the link is in the summit feed, so have a look on the platform. Go and sign the declaration. This is my first call to action today. And so before we get started with this session, let's start with a poll. I'm really curious to hear from you. When will impact be the new normal in investing, business, and government, according to you? 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, never? What do you think? Let us know. Excited to see. Okay, 5 years. A bit of hope, but more work to be done. So in the past 2 days in closings and openings, I've been telling you about water, earth, air, the human element. Today, the last element I want to mention here is fire. The fire that brings light and hope. We have today more than 60 countries represented. And that actually makes me think about the Olympic Games. I'm not really into sports, but the Olympics represent something unique, the ability of nations to come together peacefully for something that's beyond transactional. It's a collective moment where the only thing that matters is pushing the limits together. Have you actually wondered what happened with the Olympic flame this year? For the first time in history, it will spend a record amount of time in its host country, far from Greece. It's currently in a museum in Tokyo. So, like the Olympic flame, like light is always here or there to give us hope, to remind us that dawn always comes after darkness. Impact is our dawn. It is what will bring about a more just and sustainable world. A world where no one is left behind, where people and planet can thrive. Here's how this unprecedented crisis might be the best chance for all of us collectively. During the past 2 days of this ESG 2020 Impact Summit, you have heard and discussed solutions that will lead to an impactful recovery. As we go into this third day, geared towards action and commitments, I invite all of us to go into the sessions with a wish to commit to concrete actions and collaborations. Think about how your actions after the summit will create resilience, build safety nets and internalize the cost of those, foster social justice, truly reducing inequalities and empowering the most vulnerable, protect and regenerate the environment now and for the longer term. These are the three conditions under which we will succeed. If you will, the stress test for our initiatives to become future-proof. Today is slightly different from the previous days. You will be able to either join workshops, real working meetings built around the 8 action areas that we at the GSG believe are the most urgent and relevant for a just and impact-led recovery. Or you can also choose to join the town hall with Ronnie, where you can discuss with him and his special guests how we should reshape capitalism for a better world. The thread for today will be to discuss the how and the concrete steps that will answer the 3 questions. How do we scale impact investment to combat unemployment, reduce inequality, and preserve the environment? How do we get governments to mandate impact transparency and accountability for companies? How do we empower companies and investors to pursue impact? These are the 3 questions. We have ideas and solutions. We are inviting you to tell us yours and for you to join us on this journey towards collective action. But before we go there, I would like now to invite Clara Barby, CEO of the Impact Management Project, which is probably the most game-changing coalition today, working behind the scenes to ensure that we actually embed impact in all decisions and value what really matters. Welcome, Clara. Thank you for being here.
Krisztina, thank you so much for the opportunity. I'm only going to speak for a few minutes, but I hope it piques your interest. And then I'm actually facilitating a panel looking at the subject in more detail for those of you who want to join that next. The Impact Management Project was born in 2016, and it's a project. It's not another organization or an initiative. It has a finite life. It was created as a push to help, particularly in the area of measurement and management of social and environmental performance. And the reason that it was created was because there was a recognition that, I think, 2 really important things. One, that this whole area of how we measure and therefore how companies disclose what they do to the world and how investors therefore use that data to make decisions, as well as other stakeholders like governments and consumers, the how of it, as Krisztina said, is absolutely crucial. And it's not physics. At the end of the day, it is a social construct. We all have to agree on that how we're going to, in terms of measurement. And it's interesting that I'm saying that as someone who is a real stickler for making sure that we're building off best available evidence and science. And so I would be the first to say that there's lots of parts of measurement that require relying on science. But at the end of the day, the methodologies that we all coalesce around will be a social construct. They will be based on consensus building among us all. And so the project was formed so that there was a space for doing that consensus building. And the second observation that came along with that is that it's unlikely to be one particular initiative or organization that is the silver bullet because of this need for a social construct. And actually, the more likely path to breakthrough to getting to standards for measurement and disclosure that are equivalent to what we see in financial gap is going to come from a range of different organizations working together. And so the second reason the project was formed was so that there was a technical facilitation team, which I run, to provide that support to that group of organizations and provide the technical facilitation and resources, because at the end of the day, this is incremental to what these organizations do every day. So that's the reason for the project. In addition to that work we do with 15 standard setting organizations that I'm going to focus on in a moment, we do also run an extensive practitioner community. And I say that to you all because for those of you who are investors working in this area, please do contact my colleague. He's called Mike McCrellis. You can email him, mike@impactmanagementproject.com, and get involved with what we do. We can help you in a variety of ways, and it's all for the public good. It's all about sharing with your peers and learning. On the work we do facilitating standard setters, I just wanted to focus on some highlights and then connect it to an important topic that's going to be discussed at the GSG, which is the GSG's role in the area of measurement, which is impact-weighted accounts. So we facilitate a network of 15 standard setting organizations that we think between them have the ability to get to a globally accepted social construct for how we do this, how we measure and disclose companies' performance. And it includes a variety of corporate sustainability disclosure standard setters that you are probably familiar with. GRI, SASB, CDP, CDSB, and the IIRC are the acronyms that have really led that conversation for some time, and they have different functions. And as of 10 minutes ago, there would have been a piece in the Financial Times that you can find, which talks about a breakthrough statement from them all to work together, which we're facilitating. So do go to the paper that backs up that statement and have a look at what they're doing. But that group, the 5 of the 15, are exclusively focused on the corporate disclosure piece. Around that, there are then 10 other organizations who have equally important roles to play, but just in different aspects of the ecosystem. And so some of those are looking at the principles of practice that we should have if we're going to be measuring and managing impact. Some of them are looking at, once you've got the performance on the metrics or the disclosures, how do you then analyze that for the so what? And that is the piece I wanted to connect for you now to impact-weighted accounts. Impact-weighted accounts takes corporate disclosure metrics. In other words, for a simple example, imagine disclosure of GHG emissions, carbon emissions, by a company, and says the way to understand whether that is meaningful is not only to compare it to peer behavior, and not only to compare it to a science-based target for what the carbon emissions should be for a company in that industry. Both of those things are now possible, but also to be able to compare that performance, those carbon emissions, to other impacts. Because in reality, companies today are having to trade off all the time with limited resources. Should they spend more of their budget this year on reducing their carbon footprint or pay their employees more? These are real questions that boards face every day. And so we have to have an analytical technique that allows for comparison of impacts so that we can start to understand companies holistically. And the work of impact-weighted accounts, which has Sir Ronald Cohen as the chair, I'm the vice chair, and then Professor George Seraphim at Harvard Business School is leading the work, is researching that, is looking at how might we move beyond performance on metrics to understanding the relative socioeconomic worth of those carbon emissions, looked at in terms of social cost of carbon, relative to what it means if you invest in your employees, what it means if you sell socially beneficial products that change people's lives, so that we can have much more rounded discussions about the real world impact of companies. What's fascinating about that research and effort, though, is the link to the investment community, because it's not just about having a calculation methodology that looks at the relative worth of different impacts. It's about then saying, what if every company could do that and then incorporate that socioeconomic value into their financial accounts, so that we start to look at total value accounting, so that we start to understand, is a company truly profitable? Or if you actually factor in the social cost of carbon for which someone else is picking up the bill, are they actually unprofitable? And when we can start to have that kind of conversation, I start to feel that capitalism might change, because the economic construct on which our entire society is based is one of total value, not just financial value. So I encourage you to look at that work. And I also encourage those of you who can to join us in the workshop, where both I and then a colleague will have a fascinating series of panelists with lots of expertise who can really dig into this topic. Krisztina, thank you so much for giving me the chance to talk about that.
Thank you so much. Really groundbreaking work, and it will be available as a workshop just now. There is 7 other really important topics that will be discussed as workshops as well. So please feel free to join any of those. You can, after 45 minutes of workshop, you can go and listen to the keynote, the conversation between Gillian Tett and Paul Romer. And then you can, if you wish, either stay in the same workshop or change to a different conversation for part 2. All of them are really, really incredibly exciting, and conversations that we want to make very action-oriented. We want to contribute to coordinate the next steps of these pieces of work. So come and join us on this journey. And at the very end of the day, after Emmanuel Faber's keynote, we will regroup again and discuss what the action plan looks like for the next couple of months for an impact-led recovery. So thank you, and ahead with more work and more conversations. See you there.